Have you ever wondered why your friend who works at Google still lives paycheck to paycheck? Or why your neighbor with the fancy job title can't seem to save money? Here's something that might shock you. Sometimes, the better your job looks on paper, the worse it is for your actual wealth. I'm talking about real people here. People with impressive LinkedIn profiles. People whose parents brag about them at dinner parties. And yet, behind closed doors, they're drowning in debt and stress. Here at Simple Money, we've analyzed hundreds of financial stories, and we've discovered something disturbing. The very things that make a job look good to everyone else can systematically destroy your ability to build wealth. Today, I'm going to reveal the 5 hidden ways that prestigious jobs keep people poor. And trust me, nobody's talking about this stuff. So here's what's really happening. When you land what society calls a good job, something invisible starts to happen. It's not your fault. It's not a character flaw. It's a series of predictable traps that close around you the moment you get that offer letter. Think about it this way. When someone gets a job at a big tech company or a prestigious law firm, what's the first thing everyone says? Congratulations, right? You made it. But here's what they don't say. You just entered a system specifically designed to keep you running on a hamster wheel forever. The problem isn't the job itself. The problem is everything that comes with it. The expectations, the lifestyle, the people around you. All of it conspires to ensure that no matter how much you earn, you'll never actually get ahead. And the cruel part? The better the job, the stronger these forces become. It's like quicksand. The more you struggle to look successful, the deeper you sink. Let me show you exactly how this works. The first trap is what I call the proximity curse, and this one is absolutely brutal. Here's how it works. When you get a good job, you suddenly find yourself surrounded by people who earn similar money to you. Or in many cases, people who earn way more than you. Your coworkers become your reference point, your new normal. And here's the thing about humans. We don't measure our success in absolute terms. We measure it relative to the people around us. So let's say you just landed a job making $80,000 a year. That's objectively good money, right? But then you walk into the office. Your cubicle neighbor just bought a Tesla. Another colleague is planning a trip to Japan. Someone else is talking about their investment property. Suddenly, $80,000 doesn't feel like much anymore. It feels inadequate. And your brain starts doing this terrible math. If they can afford all that, why can't I? But here's what you don't see. That person with the Tesla? They're making payments they can barely afford. The colleague going to Japan? They put it on a credit card. The investment property person? They're house poor and stressed about 2 mortgages. But you don't know any of that. All you see is the surface, the lifestyle, the stuff, and your brain whispers that you're falling behind. This is why location matters so much. A software engineer making $90,000 in the Midwest might save $20,000 a year easily. That same engineer making $130,000 in San Francisco feels broke. Why? Proximity. They're comparing themselves to people who make $300,000. The curse isn't about the absolute numbers. It's about who's standing next to you. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The second trap I call the celebration tax, and most people never see this one coming. Let me explain what I mean. Every time something good happens in a high-status job, there's an unspoken expectation. You're supposed to celebrate. You got promoted? Time for dinner and drinks with the team. You closed a big deal? Rounds at the bar. Someone's getting married? Bachelor party in Vegas. These aren't really optional, by the way. Sure, nobody's holding a gun to your head, but say no too many times and suddenly you're not a team player. You're not one of the guys. You're the weird person who doesn't participate in company culture. So you go. You spend $60 on dinner. You chip in $300 for the bachelor party. You buy rounds. You keep up. And every single time, a little piece of your paycheck disappears. Here's what makes this particularly cruel. These celebrations are often with people who earn more than you. The senior partner suggests that expensive steakhouse. The VP picks the pricey bar. And you're supposed to keep pace. Do the math on this. Let's say you do 1 team dinner per month at $70, 1 after-work drink session at $40, and 2 bigger events per year at $300 each. That's already over $1,300 annually. Just for being social at work? But it doesn't feel optional. It feels like networking, like career development, like the cost of fitting in. And maybe it is, but it's also bleeding you dry. The brutal truth? The celebration tax hits hardest at the beginning of your career, right when you can least afford it, right when you should be saving aggressively. The third trap is what I call image maintenance, and this one sneaks up on people because it feels necessary. Let me paint you a picture. You work at a prestigious company, you interact with clients, you go to meetings, and there's this unspoken dress code. Not the written policy, the real one. The one where you notice everyone wears certain brands, carries certain bags, drives certain cars. Nobody says you have to match them, but you feel it. That subtle pressure, that quiet judgment, when you show up in something a little too cheap, a little too off-brand. So, you upgrade. You buy the nicer suits, the better laptop, the sleeker phone. You lease a car that looks appropriate for someone in your position. Each decision feels reasonable in isolation. But here's the thing. Image maintenance is a treadmill that speeds up over time. Once you establish a certain look, you can't really downgrade. That would signal failure, struggle. So, you're locked in. Let's put real numbers on this. A professional wardrobe that looks right for a corporate job might cost $2,000 to $4,000 to build. Then you need to maintain it, replace things, update for seasons. That's another $1,000 or so per year. Then there's your car. If you're in a client-facing role, you might feel pressure to drive something decent. Not fancy, just not embarrassing. That could mean an extra $200 to $300 per month in payments compared to a basic used car. Add it all up. You're spending thousands of dollars annually just to look like someone who has money, while actually preventing yourself from having money. It's a perfect trap. And here's the worst part. The higher you climb, the more expensive image maintenance becomes. Senior people drive nicer cars, wear more expensive watches, live in better neighborhoods. The treadmill never stops. It just gets faster and more expensive. The fourth trap is the golden handcuffs, and this might be the most insidious of all. Here's how it works. Good jobs come with good benefits, health insurance, retirement matching, stock options, bonuses, perks, all sorts of things that make leaving feel absolutely terrifying. Let's say you're 3 years into a tech job. You're vested in some stock. You get an annual bonus. You have great health insurance. Your company matches 6% on retirement. You get free lunch and gym membership. Now imagine thinking about leaving. Maybe to start a business. Maybe to take a lower paying but more fulfilling job. Maybe just to escape the stress. What's the first thing that hits you? All the things you'd lose. The stock you haven't vested yet. The bonus you'd miss. The insurance you'd have to pay for yourself. Suddenly, leaving feels like throwing away tens of thousands of dollars. So you stay. 1 more year, just to get the next stock grant. Just to hit the next vesting date. Just to collect the next bonus. But here's what's really happening. You're trading your freedom for benefits. And companies know this. They structure compensation specifically to make leaving painful. Not all at once, but spread out, over years. Always something just around the corner you don't want to miss. I've watched people stay in jobs they hate for years because they were waiting for stock to vest, because they didn't want to lose their bonus, because the benefits were too good. And every year they stay, the handcuffs get tighter. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Those golden handcuffs are really expensive. Sure, you're getting benefits, but you're also staying in a situation that might be preventing you from building real wealth, from taking calculated risks, from finding something better. The people who build serious wealth usually have to uncuff themselves at some point. They have to walk away from the safe benefits and the good job. And that's terrifying, which is exactly why most people never do it. The fifth trap is what I call lifestyle creep on steroids. Now, everyone's heard of lifestyle creep, that phenomenon where your spending rises to match your income. But in high-status jobs, this happens faster and harder than anywhere else. Here's why. When you get a good job, your income doesn't just go up, your entire context changes. You move to a more expensive city for the job. You live in a nicer neighborhood to be closer to work. You need a car because public transit doesn't go there. You eat out more because you're working long hours. Every single one of these changes feels forced by the job, not optional, and each one permanently raises your cost of living. This isn't about buying luxuries, it's about your entire baseline life becoming more expensive. Let me give you a specific example. You take a job in New York making $120,000. Sounds amazing, right? But you need to live somewhere reasonable. That's $3,000 per month minimum for a decent one-bedroom. Already you're spending $36,000 per year just on rent, just to exist. Back home, you were paying $900 for an apartment. You just added $25,000 to your annual expenses, and you had no choice. The job required you to be here. Then there's the time tax. You're working 60 hours a week. You don't have time to cook. You don't have time to shop for deals. You don't have time to maintain things yourself. So you outsource. Food delivery, laundry service, house cleaning. Each one seems small, but they add up fast. Here's where it gets really dark. All of this lifestyle creep becomes your new baseline. It's not luxury spending anymore. It's just how you live. So, when you think about your financial situation, you don't even see it. You think you need to earn $120,000 just to survive, when really, you've locked yourself into needing $120,000. And the brutal part? Going backwards feels impossible. Once you've lived in Manhattan, can you really go back to a small apartment in Ohio? Once you've had grocery delivery and house cleaning, can you really go back to doing it yourself? Lifestyle creep in high-status jobs isn't about buying fancy things. It's about your entire cost structure becoming permanently elevated. And that elevation traps you more effectively than any spending habit ever could. But here's what nobody wants to admit, and this is the really uncomfortable part. All 5 of these traps serve a purpose. Not for you, for the system. Stay with me here. Companies benefit enormously from employees who live right up to their means. Why? Because those employees can never leave. They need every paycheck. They can't take risks. They can't negotiate hard. They're dependent, controllable, reliable. Think about it. Would you rather have an employee who saves half their income and could quit tomorrow? Or an employee who spends everything and needs the job desperately? If you're a company, the choice is obvious. You want the trapped employee. This is why high-status jobs pay well but come with expensive lifestyles attached. It's not an accident. It's a feature. The proximity curse keeps you spending. The celebration tax keeps you participating. Image maintenance keeps you investing in appearances. Golden handcuffs keep you staying. Lifestyle creep keeps you dependent. The system wants you comfortable but trapped. Earning well but saving poorly. Looking successful but feeling stressed. And for most people, it works perfectly. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus graduated with a computer science degree and got hired at a major tech company. Starting salary? $115,000. His parents were thrilled. His friends were jealous. Marcus felt like he'd made it. Within 2 years, Marcus was broke. Not actually broke, but broke feeling. Living paycheck to paycheck on over $100,000 annually. How does that even happen? First came the apartment. Marcus moved to Seattle for the job. He got a nice place in Capitol Hill, close to work. Cool neighborhood, $2,800 per month. That felt normal. Everyone at work paid similar rent. Then the car. Public transit was okay, but Marcus wanted freedom. Plus, some people at work drove nice cars, so he leased a luxury sedan. $550 per month, plus insurance. Plus parking. The proximity curse was already working. Marcus started going out with coworkers after work. Dinners, drinks, shows. He didn't want to be the cheap guy, so he kept pace. $300 to $500 per month just on social stuff. Then came the wardrobe. Marcus wanted to look sharp, like he belonged. So he upgraded everything. Spent about $3,000 over 6 months building a professional wardrobe. It felt like an investment. Fast forward 18 months. Marcus is making good money, but somehow, he has less than $4,000 in savings. His credit card has a balance. He feels stressed about money constantly, and he can't figure out where it all goes. But here's what Marcus doesn't realize. He's caught in all 5 traps simultaneously. His rent reflects the proximity curse. His social spending is the celebration tax. His wardrobe is image maintenance. He's already thinking about his next stock vest date, and his entire lifestyle has inflated to match his income. Marcus isn't stupid. He's not irresponsible. He's just stuck in a system designed to extract his wealth while making him feel successful. Now let me tell you about Priya. Priya got a similar job at a similar company around the same time as Marcus. Starting salary? $110,000. Slightly less than Marcus. But here's where things went differently. Priya did something unusual, Before moving for the job, she calculated her savings rate target. She decided she wanted to save 40% of her post-tax income, about $33,000 per year. Then she designed her entire life to make that number non-negotiable. She moved to a neighborhood 30 minutes from work. Not cool, not trendy. But her rent was $1,400 per month for a nice one-bedroom, half what Marcus pays. She bought a used Honda Civic for $9,000 cash. Her payment? Zero. Her insurance? Way cheaper than Marcus's. Her transportation costs? Maybe $300 per month total, including gas and maintenance. When coworkers invited her out, Priya went sometimes, but she also said no. She suggested cheaper alternatives. She hosted potlucks instead of going to restaurants. Some people thought she was cheap. She didn't care. Her wardrobe? She built it slowly from outlets and sales. Took her a year. Spent maybe $1,200 total. She looked professional, just not flashy. Here's the key part. Priya never compared herself to her coworkers. She compared herself to her own goals. She didn't care if someone else drove a Tesla. She cared about her savings rate. 2 years in? Priya has $65,000 saved. She maxed out her retirement accounts. She has an emergency fund. She has options. When the company went through layoffs, Priya barely stressed. She could survive 18 months without income. Marcus, on the other hand, had a panic attack. He needs every single paycheck. He's trapped. Same job, similar salary, completely different outcomes. And the difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't luck. It wasn't even willpower. It was understanding the traps and refusing to fall into them. Here's what most people don't realize. The goal of a good job isn't to fund a good lifestyle. The goal is to create options, freedom, security. But the way these jobs are structured, they do the opposite. They create dependence disguised as success. Think about what wealth actually means. It doesn't mean looking rich. It doesn't mean having nice things. It means having choices. The choice to leave. The choice to take risks. The choice to say no. Real wealth is freedom, not stuff. But here's the trap. Good jobs give you stuff while taking away freedom. They give you status while creating dependence. They give you income while destroying your savings rate. It's a magic trick. And most people never see it happening. The difference between Marcus and Priya wasn't about discipline. It was about understanding the game. Marcus thought the point was to look successful. Priya knew the point was to become free. And here's the really important part. This isn't about living like a monk. Priya didn't suffer. She just optimized for the right metrics. She maximized her savings rate instead of her image. She invested in assets instead of appearances. She built security instead of status. The people who escape these traps don't do it through willpower. They do it through awareness. Once you see the proximity curse, you can resist it. Once you recognize the celebration tax, you can manage it. Once you understand image maintenance, you can minimize it. Once you spot the golden handcuffs, you can plan around them. Once you acknowledge lifestyle creep, you can prevent it. It's not actually about the job at all. It's about understanding that the job is trying to capture your wealth and deciding not to let it. The proximity curse, the celebration tax, image maintenance, golden handcuffs, and lifestyle creep aren't character flaws. They're predictable patterns that emerge when you take a high-status job, and they can be overcome once you understand them. The question isn't whether you can earn good money. The question is whether you can earn good money without getting trapped by it. Can you work the good job while avoiding the proximity curse? Can you maintain relationships without paying the full celebration tax? Can you look professional without bankrupting yourself on image? Can you accept benefits without being handcuffed by them? Can you increase your income without inflating your lifestyle? Most people can't. Not because they're weak, but because they don't realize they need to. They think earning more is the solution. They don't see that earning more in a high-status job comes with invisible costs specifically designed to prevent wealth building. But now you know. You see the traps. You understand the system. And that awareness is the first step toward building real wealth instead of just looking successful. The choice is yours. You can play the game everyone else is playing, or you can play a different game entirely. Same job, same income, completely different outcome.